Guam is that, we are a United States unincorporated territory. And so, we are U.S. citizens, and I think that's one of the major, it's seen as one of the major differences between Guam and Okinawa. But the reality is that, we essentially are second-class citizens. As a, unincorporated U.S. territory, we don't have representation in the Senate. We have a non-voting representative in Congress. We don't vote for president, but we still fall under all U.S. federal laws and regulations.
Were you ever concerned that they were going to move Guantanamo to Guam?
I mean, it's definitely really when it comes to Guam and military strategy, you really don't know what's going to happen, and we really have no control over what happens. We in the military's plan, in their DEIS, their Draft Environmental Impact Statement, they basically said that other alternatives for the base relocation from Okinawa included the Philippines, Korea, and Hawaii, and all three of those places said no. But nowhere in the document does it say that we ever had the opportunity to say no. And that's kind of, that's pretty much the climate in Guam, is that, we basically are forced to accept whatever it is that the United States federal government and the military decides to do.
How did the U.S. come to incorporate Guam as a territory of the United States?
Guam was purchased by the United States from Spain through the Treaty of Paris. So Guam actually was technically owned by the United States before World War II. Now, during World War II, we were when the Americans got word that Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor and that they were invading, they basically left. They abandoned Guam, and we were occupied then by Japan for 2 years. And then the United States came back to reclaim Guam, and they basically carpet bombed the entire island. And more people, a lot of people kind of look at the personal struggle, in Guam during the Japanese occupation, where we were victimized and, killed brutally. A lot of, even my family, my grandfather's brother was executed for smuggling food into prison to feed their families who were starving. They made him dig his own grave and killed him.
This was World War II.
Right, and this is during the Japanese occupation. And so, a lot of folks look at this, this occupation as a very, it's a very sensitive issue. And so in a lot of ways, the Americans were seen as the liberators. But what a lot of people don't know is that more people died in the reclaiming of Guam than in the entire 2-year occupation of Guam by the Japanese. And so, we have this kind of dual identity, this sense of, being an indigenous person from Guam, being an indigenous Chamorro, and having loyalty to the United States, and that generation is still alive and well, and there's still a lot of folks who really feel loyal to the United States. But in a lot of ways, we don't have the same rights as other Americans. And that's something that's really important in the discussion between Guam and Okinawa. A lot of folks kind of see Guam as being America. When they look at the bases in Okinawa, they think, this is an American problem, and these bases should be sent back to America. And so they look then at Guam and Hawaii as being America. And so, this is the alternative. But, a lot of folks don't realize, what our political status is and the struggles that we face within the political system. And so, this is not just a simple thing of saying, okay, this is America, let's move them there. The people of Guam want them, and the reality is that there is a lot of resistance to this buildup, and it is going to impact us in so many different ways, socially, culturally, environmentally, financially, and, it's not just a simple transfer.
And Kyle Kajihiro, I want to bring you back into the discussion. Talk about how this political realignment works in Hawaii. What does it look like from there? And also talk about the environmental impact of these bases.
Right. Well, since September 11, we've had the largest military expansions since World War II. The military seized about 25,000 acres of land in order to station their Stryker Brigade in Hawaii, and these troops are being trained to deploy to Afghanistan and Iraq. So we have this dual role in Hawaii of being a victim of the American empire and also an accomplice in the building of that empire. And so we're addressing both problems. The environmental impacts of the military are enormous in Hawaii. We have, we would argue that the military is the largest polluter, with over 828 contamination sites identified. In Ke'awalau o Pu'uloa, which is the original name of Pearl Harbor, once the food basket for Oahu with 36 fish ponds, is now a toxic Superfund site. More than 750 contamination sites, and we can't, eat from this life-giving treasure that's there. And so these are some of the manifestations that are not apparent on the surface. And even economically, with the economic influx that comes in, of course, certain people get paid, but others pay the price. And it's usually the native peoples who lose land, who are forced out of their housing because of the rising cost of living. And we have a growing homeless population on the beaches, mostly native Hawaiians living in tents. Meanwhile, thousands of acres of military land are just across the street.
Kyle Kajihiro is the program director for the American Friends Service Committee in Hawaii. Kazue Akibayashi is a professor and activist in Japan. She's with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And Melvin Juan Patborja is an educator and poet from Guam. He's part of the We Are Guam network, opposed to the military base buildup in Guam. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. You can go to our website at democracynow.org to see the entire conversation with the three anti-militarization activists. And that does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Shruf Abdokadu, Saren Mate, Angelique Kamet, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, Robbie Karen, Mike DeFilippo, Peter Curries, and Miguel Noguera, our engineers. Special thanks to Becca Staley, Julie Crosby, Nick Gilla, Hugh Grant. Welcome back to Samantha Chambly, Jessel Noor, and Vesta Godars. Our website is democracynow.org. On Saturday, I'll be addressing the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee in Washington, D.C., then on to Seattle the next day. Check our website. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.